seat. Doing all right?
We are now.
All right, let's try that again. Just a little hot. Adjusted. Hey, y'all, my name is Matt. I am the lead pastor of Christ Community Church. I am one of two teachers this summer for Epic. The other is Vic Doss. I am younger and prettier than him, but he has more wisdom, maybe. We'll see. So I want to jump right in and tell you a little bit where we're going. If you were at my church, almost immediately I tell you to turn to Genesis 11, which is where we're starting. But we're going to cover about 41 chapters of the Bible in about 30 minutes. So you're more than welcome to turn there, but I'm not going to be referencing as we kind of just go at a very fast pace. But here's where we're going, and here's what you're going to see in the story. A few things that I want to make sure you grab onto. The first is this, is that your identity, who you are, is deeply connected to the family of God. So a lot of us, particularly I think in your stage of life, and I have to say your stage of life because I'm in my mid-30s now, and you are not me, okay? So in where you are in your 20s, there is this challenge and this journey of trying to figure out who you are, and you have all these descriptors about the way in which you see yourself and your identity. And so whatever you're going to attach to it, cute, smart, athletic, funny, whatever that descriptor is going to be, that is not who you are. But at the core of who you are has something to do with the fact that you're part of the family of God. You are created to be part of the family of God. If you have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, this is who you are. You are part of the family of God. And we want to figure out some of the implications of that. Another thing you're going to see in this story is the fact that God brings you into his family by grace. There is not a single one of us who walks into God's family and walks back into God's family because we somehow earn our way in. So when we talk about this idea of grace and about God not giving us what we deserve, but giving us what we need is to be part of his family. What we deserve is to be tossed off to the side. The only way that any of us get into this family is because of grace. We need to see in this story that God is looking for a people to trust him, not to trust in themselves. So let's make very clear that we understand that grace is how you get in and grace is how you stay in. Some of us have this goofy notion that we somehow get in by grace, and then we have to make sure we mind our P's and Q's so that God doesn't, again, kick us to the curb. I mean, we got in once, but if we're not careful, he's just going to have nothing to do with us. And we know that that's true. We know that we depend on grace because the people that God chooses to work through in this story and in every story through the Bible are totally jacked up people. We have people who are messy and sinful. The reason that is because that's the only choice God has. Because the only kind of people there are in the world, which means that you and me and all of us are messy, sinful people. So if you're here, there's a freedom for you to embrace your messiness and your sinfulness. There's not a single one of us in here who has it all together. So we come with our messiness, we come with our sinfulness into this story. Now, I don't know you. I know some of you. I know some of you fairly well. I know some of you kind of well. Some of you I've never met before. Some of you, hey, I'll see you in heaven. That's the next time I'll probably see you. But I do know you. And here's what I know. The one thing I know about you is that your deepest problem is not moral and ethical. It is theological. And here's what I mean by that. The problem that you and I face is not an issue of morality, and I know that for two reasons. One is because in some of our stories in this room, and over the last 12 to 15 years working in a vocational ministry, the last 12 years working significantly with men and women who struggle with porn and sex addiction, I have seen some of the craziest, messed up stories and people and situations. People who have done crazy things. People who have had crazy things done to them, who have been radically transformed by the love of God. To where their life and things that they have broken and their brokenness has been healed and restored in unbelievably powerful ways. So it can't be about morality. It can't be about your ethic. But I also know that that's true, and I know it's not about your morality. I know it's not about your ethic because some of us in this room have mastered the art of discipling and disciplining ourselves into loving God. And I'll be honest with you, you're the ones who scare me the most. Because you're the ones that in church world are going to get platformed and are going to get applauded, and you got the gold stars when you were in VBS, and you got the Christian Citizenship Award when you were in school, and you get platform when you're a college student. They put you up here to give your testimony, and you talk about your life with God and how serious you are about going around the world and telling people about Jesus and all this kind of stuff. And everybody looks at you and thinks you're perfect. But inside you have these deep chasms of emptiness. You don't love God. You just use God so people will pat you on the back and validate you as a man or a woman. And the reason you don't love God is because you honestly don't believe that you're loved by God. That's why you white-knuckle yourself to death with having a quiet time and reading the Bible and praying and sharing your faith and doing this, that, and the other. It's not driven because you love God. It's driven because if you don't do this, God is going to destroy you. Or somebody might find out that you're a complete and total fraud. There's nothing on the inside. Now we know that's true because of the story we saw last week. And that is that here's this God who creates this world. This God who is good and great and gracious and glorious, who creates a perfect world. And then we walk in and sin against him because here is the issue. It is a theological issue that every single one of us loves something more than God. I don't know what that is for you. I kind of have an idea of what those things are for me. I mean, and maybe for some of us, we love black tar heroin more than we love Jesus. I don't know if that's it, but probably not. If you're sitting in here on a Thursday night, the stuff that you love more than Jesus is probably good stuff. Stuff that the world around you look at and go, that's not bad. What's wrong with that? I love my wife and my kids. There are moments when I love my wife and my kids more than I love Jesus. There are moments when I love my job more than I love Jesus. There are moments when you love things about you, your personality, who you are. You look in the mirror and you go, I'm beautiful. I love myself more than Jesus. Some of you have been propped up by other people's opinion of you. And you have to fight against this lie. But at the end of the day, you love their opinion of you more than you love Jesus. That's the issue. When we talk about sin, this is the issue. You love things more than Jesus. That's why you not only do sin, but you are a sinner. And because of that, that ruins everything. It ruins you. It ruins the world around you. It ruins God's world around you. And so we see that not only does this lead to death and disobedience, but it leads to the destruction and unraveling of all of God's creation. And so we have this massive problem that we see in the first 11 chapters of Genesis. At the very end of the story last week, we saw this story about Noah, this man, and he had a family, and that family got to get on this boat with all the animals in the world except the unicorns and the pterodactyls with the P. They didn't get on the big boat. They didn't get on the ark. God destroys the world. And you'd think that after that would happen, God says, I'm going to hit the reset button. And now we're going to have life the way it should be. We're going to have people act the way they should be. But what you see through the rest of Genesis 1 to 11 is this sort of downward spiral toilet bowl effect, where at the end of Genesis 11, here's what happens. There's this group of people who says, why don't we build a city? Not a problem with that. Only problem is this. They say, we're going to build a city, and we're going to build such a great city that everybody would look at us and see how great we are. Now, do you understand why that's a problem? Because some of us go, I don't feel like that's very moral. Again, the issue isn't moral, it's theological. They love themselves more than they love God. God sees the implications of that and how that will ruin the world around them, because that inevitably drives you into yourself. And he goes, these people will totally end up destroying themselves. So what he does is he takes this one group of people who spoke the same language, and all of a sudden he gives them different languages. Now they can't get along, and now they start fighting with each other, and they end up separating and scattering. You know, in God's grace, that's how he creates the nations. That's how he fulfills his plan to bless the world. But in that moment, when you get to the end of Genesis 11, the people scatter, it looks like God's project has ended. If this is the movie, fade to black, roll the credits, end of the story. This is terrible. It's a tragedy. But then what we see happens in Genesis 12 is that God establishes this relationship, a special relationship called a covenant, with a man named Abram. Now, Abram is a middle-aged man living in his parents' basement, married to his half-sister.
Wow.
Look, if you're writing a religious book, this is to help you, okay? If you're struggling with Christianity, or if you know people who are struggling with Christianity, you do realize that nobody in their right mind, if they're trying to push forward a system of morality and spirituality would ever write the Bible, because it is more jacked up than you and I could even write up. So here's this man, and it's culturally okay, all right? So it's really not that weird. It just sounds weird to us. It's probably not culturally okay to live in your parents' basement, but when you're 45. But that's a different story. So Abram's married to his half-sister. That's culturally okay, just still weird. And God makes this relationship with him called a covenant. This is the deepest relationship that exists. The closest idea of the covenant that we have in our culture is the idea of marriage. I think y'all know this, but let me make sure that, especially those of you who are in a dating relationship and maybe you're thinking about engagement, your marriage is not going to be sustained because she's hot. It's not going to be sustained because he has a job. It's nice if he has a job. It's nice if she's hot. But that is not the basis of your marriage. You make this binding commitment to one another, and the idea of covenant says this: if we break this commitment, it's not just, we feel bad about it, but actually, if we break this covenant, God says, I'm going to make this covenant with you and this relationship with you. If I back out of this relationship with you, I cease to be God. If you break this relationship, you cease to be yourself. You lose who you are, because when you bind yourself in this relationship, your identity is found in this person. And so God says, if I back away from you, I've promised to be with you and never to abandon you. And if I back off of that, if I run away from that, if I divorce you, then I'm no longer God.